I'd like to reconvene the regular meeting of the Albany Unified School District Board of Education for Tuesday, May 26th, 2015. Can we have a roll call, please?
Student Board Member Roquois.
Present.
Board Member Stapleton Gray.
Here.
Board Member Blanchard.
Here.
Board Member Lowe.
Here.
Vice President Black.
Here.
President Rosenbaum.
Here. And for those who would wish to participate, we will now have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we will now have the reading of the Albany Unified School District mission statement. As Isabel, thank you.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. Albany Unified School District is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Thank you so much. The board took no action in closed session. It brings us to approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes or modifications of the agenda?
I'll move the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Brings us to our recognition of the Ocean View Elementary students celebrating America Creative Writing Contest winners.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum, trustees, staff, and welcome to our two students. The Celebrate America Creative Writing Contest is sponsored by the American Immigration Lawyers Association and the American Immigration Council. Fifth graders from 9 schools throughout the Bay Area participated in this year's contest. The AILA attorneys reviewed all the entries and selected the top 10 finalist entries in the first round of judging. Elected officials, immigration officers, and judges and other notable local figures reviewed the top 10 finalist entries and selected the top 3 entries in the second round of judging. I'm very pleased to inform you that Francesca Patent and Bobbin Kang entries were selected as top 10 finalists in this year's contest. I want to congratulate Francesca and Bobbin and actually ask them if they could come forward to the dais. Ms. Manabusen's going to help you and have you read your entries to us, please. Can you introduce yourself?
Come on, step right up.
Hi,
Why don't you tell us your name?
Francesca.
And Francesca, would you mind reading your material for us?
Okay. Born in China, raised up here, I was a tiny baby with so much to fear. Then American citizens came to adopt me. Suddenly my heart opened up with the magical love key. My parents filled out forms so I could become an American citizen. Now I'm a San Francisco East Bay denizen. I'm so glad this is an immigration country where people are gold, our most precious bounty. I love this country very so. The world is much better with immigrants, as we all know. With immigrants, the freedom bell can ring. Immigrants can teach us many different things. They teach us things about their culture and help us have a better future. Whether you're from a different place, in America, you're never a misplaced. We don't want you to feel left behind. You belong in this world. That's why you were designed. If America wasn't an immigration country, I wouldn't be here. When I think of that, I shed a tear. I'm glad that there are immigration countries. It should stay that way for many more centuries.
Thank you so much. We got to read your poem earlier today. It's just wonderful.
Thank you. Can I bag it?
Sure.
And tell us your name.
I think the word my name is Bobin, and I I think the word immigration is a little too hard for me. I mean, I think it means having a fight with the time than going to another country in my own brain dictionary. What do you think it'll be like to stay in a country that you don't really know? What do you think it'll be like to talk with them and try to understand them? I didn't know it'll be this hard since I knew a little bit about this country, but it wasn't. A very, very hard life flew down to me. My parents weren't allowed to stay in this country for more than 3 months. When I was in my mom's stomach, my mom tried her best to make me born in this country because she thought this huge country will support me better than my own tiny country. And I was born here in America. I don't remember, but my dad said he was able to see me when I was almost 1 year old, and I thought it wasn't the happiest story. After I was born here, I came to America several times, but I wasn't able to stay longer than 6 months, because even when I was 6, 8, and 9, at first my mom came with me, but she had to leave soon, or I came by myself from the airplane. I was living in my aunt's house whenever I came to America. Since I came here, my aunts were very nice that I had everything but loves from my parents. Now I am 5th grade. I think I became pretty strong enough to win this fight this time without my mom and my dad. I know that most immigrated people miss their friends or their families just like me. I'm going to win this fight waiting for my beautiful future.
So we have something for each of you, and so we would like your principal to come forward. And do we have parents here tonight? Could you also come forward and ask our board president to come down? We have a couple of certificates that we would like to present to our students.
So, the Albany Unified School District Board of Education recognizes Francesca Patton, Ocean View Elementary School student, as a finalist in the Celebrate America Creative Writing Contest. We compliment you on your achievement.
That's big.
And the Albany Unified School District Board of Education recognizes Bobbin Kang, Ocean View Elementary School student, as a finalist in the Celebrate America Creative Writing Contest. We compliment you on your achievement. Congratulations.
All of you come here so that our board can stand up behind you and to your feet. Parents, principals, and our board president next to you. Come on up front. And you can hold your parents there.
My name is Terry Georgeson, and I'd like to just very quickly acknowledge. I'd like to acknowledge Renee Theriot. She has 2 students this evening who have won this award. She also had 1 last year and 2 the previous year. She has put a lot of time and dedication, and I think she believes firmly in the opportunity for these kids to have this opportunity. So I really appreciate your efforts.
Once again, it speaks so highly of our schools, and Ms. Georgian, thank you. Any other board comments?
We're very, very proud of you.
We are. Okay, we will move on now. Approval of the consent calendar. Do we have any, bye-bye. Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
That brings us to persons to address the board on matters not on the agenda. Do we have anyone who has any comments from the audience? Seeing none, we move to our next item 6, public employee appointments. A, approve appointment of principal of Albany High School. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum, trustees. I am very, very proud to announce that after an extensive search and interview process, we have our new Albany High School principal. His name is Charles Jeff Anderson. He goes by Jeff, and Jeff, you can come on up to the dais. Jeff Anderson began his career in education as a social studies teacher at Sonoma High School, where he taught for 9 years. He then became the dean of students at Napa High School, and following his wife's career, Jeff moved to New York, where he was an assistant principal at Hunter College High School, and then, I practiced this, Mamaroneck High School.
Mamaroneck?
Oh, rats. Say it again?
Mamaroneck.
Mamaroneck High School. After he and his family returned to the Bay Area, Jeff became the principal of Saratoga High School, where he served there for 7 years. Jeff is currently the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Human Resources for the Los Gatos Saratoga Union High School District. Jeff's philosophy is to provide a collaborative approach to school governance that respects diverse voices and opinions. He believes in facilitating the success of all students and staff, and his leadership style is based upon hard work, respect, common courtesy, and collaborative empowerment of others. He wants to continue the shared governance model at Albany High School. In his spare time, Jeff enjoys Giants games. Jeff, we're not going to hold that against you since I'm an Ace fan. He enjoys cooking with his children, basketball, and reading about history. His oldest daughter is a sophomore at Arizona State University, and his younger daughter is in the 5th grade. And I would like to recommend for the appointment of the principal of Albany High School, Mr. Charles Jeff Anderson.
Do we have a motion?
I move we approve this appointment.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the board and Superintendent Williams and everybody in the district that was part of the hiring committee. It was a nice process, and it was a comfortable process, and I want to say thanks for picking me, obviously. And I was attracted to Albany, and I said this in my interviews. There's a lot going on with LCAP and with Common Core and the new science standards and all the changes that are going on in California right now. And I'm really excited to come to a district that seems to be looking at that change as opportunity, not as something to be afraid of. And believe me, there's folks out there that are nervous about it, and it doesn't appear to be that way here. And I think with that kind of change, those opportunities exist to really improve the instruction and the overall experience for students at the schools in Albany, and you guys seem to be going in that direction. I'm glad to be a part of it. The other thing I mentioned in there that came to me right away when I got to the district office is Albany schools, Albany schools. It's inextricably linked, and that's a great experience and a great idea to have that community connection. And I've had that where I've been in the past, and it makes for a great experience for the students, and so I'm excited about that. So thank you very much.
And we actually have something for you before you leave.
Wait.
So when I became the superintendent, President Rosenbaum gave me a school shirt for every school in the district so I could wear them on Fridays.
Okay.
So we have for you an Albany High School sweatshirt for you. I hope it fits.
Hold it up for the show.
Can you hope it? Yep. All right, Cougars. And you get the Albany Unified School District pen for signing all those great decisions you're going to make. So congratulations.
I'll have it on my desk.
Yes.
I have it in my personal one.
And welcome to Albany.
Thanks so much, Val. Thank you very much. Again, I have to take my leave.
Thank you.
Which brings us to item B, approve appointment of vice principal, Albany Middle School.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum, trustees. Again, after an extensive search and interview process, I am very proud to bring before the board the Albany Middle School's new vice principal, David Halpert. And if David could come to the dais, please. David Halpert began his career in education as a teacher of English in Spain and France. He is currently a Spanish teacher and department chairperson at Pleasant Hill Middle School. He is also on the principal's leadership team and is a faculty senate representative. David holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in history with a minor in Spanish and will receive his master's degree in educational leadership in August. David's philosophy is to ensure that all students acquire the academic and social skills to be successful in their professional and personal lives. He believes that students learn best when engaged in collaborative and creative work that requires them to develop their communicative and creative thinking skills. In his spare time, David enjoys playing ultimate frisbee, running, exploring the Bay Area, and playing bluegrass guitar. He also will be spending time with his newborn daughter, who was born on Christmas Day. So I would like to very proudly recommend the appointment of David Halpert, Vice Principal of Albany Middle School.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move we appoint David Halpert, Vice Principal of Albany Middle School.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And David, you'll have to come over and see my HD 35 one of these days.
Sounds good. I have
That's a guitar.
D28.
That's
Yeah,
a guitar thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And David, Principal Deborah Brill has something for you. Some things for you.
Just also want to extend our welcome. We're really excited to have you. We have a week at the school every year, Unity Week, where we celebrate our diversity. And so we have a student-designed Unity Week shirt for you,
That's great. Thank you.
as well as a Team Cobra water bottle and a very handy AMS Cobra's carabiner.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
We're really excited.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And then just similar to Jeff, I was speaking with Jackie earlier, and it's interesting being a candidate for a job, and you get to observe, and people don't necessarily pay attention to that you're there. And so when I spent time in the district office, the one thing that I heard from parents and teachers and staff members was how much they enjoyed being a part of Albany community and the Albany Unified School District. I saw parents dropping off gifts for staff members in the central office for just how much hard work and dedication that they had shown to their student to help them be successful. And I'm really excited to join a community and an educational team that's committed to the success of every student, and I'm just really looking forward to giving my all to helping ensure the highest level of education possible for every Albany middle school student here. So I'm really excited for this opportunity, and look forward to building a relationship with you all and then also with the community over the coming years. So thank you.
Congratulations. We have an exciting year coming up.
We do. Very exciting.
Brings us to student board member reports. Isabel.
All right. So coming back from this 3-day weekend, I know a lot of students took the opportunity to rest, and now they're looking forward to 3 more weeks of school only, which is pretty exciting, especially for our seniors. The theater ensemble students attended the Ashland Shakespeare Festival 2 weeks ago, and they participated in a few events. They made costumes out of newspaper, and it seemed like they had a really good time. We can ask Michael for more details when we see him. And on the 15th was the art show at the high school, and we had photography students as well as some of Mr. Castle's web production students, and then obviously all of the art students produced some work for that show, and so it was on display for the entire day, and it was very nice. There was some of the art students did some chalk art outside in the front that was inspired by really famous artists. So we had some Michelangelo and some Van Gogh and all that. So it was really great. And on the 21st, we had the American Red Cross Blood Drive. We have it 2 times a year, so this is our spring blood drive, and leadership hosted it, and we did very well. Albany, or the Red Cross says that Albany High is one of the best high schools around for blood drives. They say that we have really good participation, which is good to hear that our students are interested in helping out in a really important way. And AP Studio Art students completed their mural at the Albany Children's Center, and there's a picture of it on our school's Instagram, Albany High CA, and I'm sure people can go visit it now and see it's really colorful. It's quite nice. And elections were held for future ASB positions and for various class councils. Those were held on the 21st, and election results are posted on our school's website. And now they're beginning the process of the administration interviewing candidates for the elected positions by the administration. I guess we call those appointments. And today was the senior retreat. So a large group of seniors got on a bus and they went down to Great America, and I heard it was a really fun day. And also the varsity baseball team played in the North Coast Section Championships, not the finals, but they're moving toward that. They played at 4. I'm not sure what the outcome was, but they were really excited for the game. Today was home. And tomorrow there's a home game with varsity softball, and they're playing in the NCS as well. And that's at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And on Thursday, the 28th, there's the variety show from 7 to 8:30. So that's going to feature talents from our choirs and our various programs at the school. And it's in the Little Theater. And then this Saturday is our high school's prom, and that will be from 8 to 12. And then the following day, AHS Jazz will be playing at Ashkenaz at 7 o'clock. So come by and check out the jazz program. And the final issue of the Cougar newspaper will be released on the 5th of June, so next Friday. So we're going to print this Thursday, scrambling to finish it up. And the same day, the senior awards ceremony will take place to honor all of our seniors and their accomplishments. And currently, seniors are working to clear their book fines so that they can receive their graduation tickets.
Which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in that book or you're not going to walk.
Yeah, and we have some pretty outrageous fines on the list. It was posted publicly, so it's, I guess, a form of public shaming to get kids to pay their fines.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Isabella. There's a lot going on again.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments?
Isabella has some very exciting.
Oh,
Yes. I have made my decision for what I'll be doing next year. I will be attending Barnard College in New York City. It's one of the undergraduate colleges of Columbia University, so I'm really excited to be in New York City. And it's a women's college, so I'll be surrounded by some really fabulous people.
you've got the New York contingent over on this
Oh.
end. We're very excited. Get used to the subway. It's great fun. Brings us to our staff report tonight. Albany High School robotics team.
Yes, thank you. And actually, if Cynthia, could you ask the robotics team to come on in? I think they're right outside.
I thought I saw that. Yeah. Oh, we're way ahead of schedule. I like it.
So while the robotics team is coming in, the Albany High Robotics Team Club did very well this year in the 2015 Pioneers in Education Robotics Competition held at the Lawrence Hall of Science on April 25th and 26th. Each year, Albany High School competes in this 8-week labor-intensive event, and this is, I believe, their 10th year. We are very pleased to announce that Albany won the highest honor, the Engineering Professionalism Award. In addition, the team won the Journaling Award for the Best Robotics Journal and were competition champions with their Lions team. No team in the history of the PIE has ever won 3 of the most prestigious awards in one competition. Albany High beat 20 other local Bay Area high school teams, to win this year's competition. Now, they did this in the fact that this is an all-volunteer club. Students fundraise for their competition entry fees, and they have some amazing teachers who volunteer and give up their time because they believe in the robotics program. I am very, very pleased to introduce to you the robotics team, and who would like to be the spokesperson and take us through our presentation? It can.
You should also make sure to introduce Mr. Peterson.
Step up to the podium.
They'll introduce him.
I recognized you, Mr.
Hi,
Peters.
that's Mr. Peterson.
Is our robotics club?
Yeah,
And you are?
my name's Alan Zhang, and I'm a senior at Albany High School.
My name's Atharva Karnik, and I'm also a senior at Albany High School.
Great.
We've both done robotics all 4 years.
Yeah.
So, want to start?
So initially, when we started this competition, or this year's competition, we had pretty lofty goals. We'd come off 2 years of, we've come out of 2 difficult years in which we've learned like many lessons about how we should go about it. So the 2 lessons we took going into this is that we wanted to keep our robot very simple, and we wanted to keep our whole team engaged in the building process.
One of the things we learned as freshmen was that the seniors would take all of the work, leaving us freshmen to either go make top dog runs, get everyone hot dogs, or just do minor sawing and drilling and just cast this aside. So we really wanted to make sure that all the new members were engaged and enthusiastic about robotics.
So the designer of our robot, a lot of people helped come up with this. It was a whole team effort, especially with the two main mechanical aspects of our design. So the game this year at Pioneers in Engineering competition was a combination of flipping tables and taking in and dispensing food onto those tables. So in order to flip the tables, we designed a flipping mechanism that involves two metal ramps and wheels that help lift the table onto those ramps, which then flip it over.
The robot just moves straight forward and the table flips over. For picking up food off a center table in the middle of the game field, we made the giant box thing you see on the robot, which has a revolving door. Those white walls are revolving doors that open up onto the table. The robot moves onto the table, the food rolls in, we close the door, and the food comes onto the robot. That was our basic design for getting food and flipping over tables, and we wanted to achieve both goals throughout the game.
Yeah, and even though during the competition we didn't necessarily get to use all the aspects of our robot due to some minor mechanical failures, we did learn a lot more lessons from this robotics competition, especially with how our team worked together. This year we saw our team work together in like more ways than we've ever seen before. I believe the word is synergy or something. But yeah, it was really great to see everybody like participate in design reviews, building the robot, and just overall having fun at the competition. As you see, like we have 3 wonderful, beautiful awards that that I think the whole team worked really hard for, and we're all really proud of ourselves.
Can you demonstrate what it does?
Unfortunately, we cannot.
We don't have a robot, but a remote, but we can like go up there and like turn the things. Okay, yeah, Kevin can do that. So right now, Kevin's gonna demonstrate how the wheels, just spin the door, Kevin.
Is in there. And if you want to get it out, because you have to put it on other tables and the food's on the other side, you reverse it and it spins that way. And so the food comes out.
This matches, sorry.
And when the table's spinning the other way, you pretty much just this, so the food comes here, and then you spin it around again, so it comes out, and it comes out.
So this matches like our idea that we wanted to keep our robot really simple and very flexible on what it can do with such little like moving parts.
And for picking up food?
That was
picking up the other yeah.
Flipping the tables, this mechanic proved to be a bit more difficult long story. But how it works is that there's a table here, and relatively it's just upside down. So it does a dry sport that spins these wheels. And these wheels are omni wheels, so it helps kind of raise it up while it's kind of spinning. So it's continually moving forward. So while it's moving forward, it goes and it goes. So it lifts up the table like this, and then it keeps going. It uses the momentum of the entire robot to bump into it and flip it over, so it's on the right side up. And then you can use this to put food on it. Then take it, put it in the corner, and the other teams can't flip your table or reflip your table. Yeah. That's how it works.
And who's got the remote?
Some questions.
Yeah, Pat.
So my nephew is on a robotics team in Minnesota. Otherwise, I wouldn't understand this at all. So
Kevin.
I'm going to ask very basic, like barely understand questions. So, at least some of you also did some of the coding to make this.
Jesse and Daniel, Tiffany.
To make this move. Would you like to explain a little bit about that process?
So each year we get a different coding language. This year it was a specific thing for the VEX kit, which is just the producer of the parts. On the robot, there's a little sensor in the front that basically is able to follow a white line. So if you have white tape or something of the sort, you would be able to follow that line, which was the majority of our code there. Um,
Come on, Daniel, you can say a little bit. Go ahead.
So basically the robot would start in a specified area, follow the line. At the end of the line, there would be a wooden table that the robot would run into and thus keep driving, flip over the table, and get us a bunch of points, which is really great since it helps us win.
So did the three of you have to learn a new coding? Was this a new coding language to you? Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
But you probably know other coding languages, so you were. Was it similar to ones you already knew?
Yeah, it was based off. Robot C is based off of C, and at the high school in AP Computer Science, we learned this other language called Java, which was based off of C too. So we could see a lot of the similarities and the functionalities. So that really helped us figure out how to use the code really quickly.
Oh, we like that. We like to hear the application to AP Computer Science. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was extremely helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you introduce the rest of the members of your team, please?
Yeah, I doesn't everyone just
One
at a time. One
Has to go into
Then
the
you should
microphone.
go up to the mic and say your name.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Lewis.
I'm Lizzie. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Ash.
Hello, I'm Kevin.
I'm Alan, once again.
I'm Jesse Valva. I'm a junior.
I'm Daniel. I'm a senior.
And I'm Tiffany Lee, and I'm also a senior.
Okay, so can somebody explain the significance of the emblem on your T-shirt? I get the gear part, but why the ice cream cone?
The ice cream is just a representation of this year's game, which was called. But the ice cream is a representation of the nom-noms that were used in the game, which was fake food, and ice cream was one of them. So this was just the game, basically.
Also, over there we ate a cake and had ice cream.
Yeah, we did. We had ice cream cake.
As I said, I wouldn't be much of an expert on this, except that I have this nephew in the Midwest who also is really into robotics. And I would just tell you that when I went to his presentation there are companies who are coming there to support students like yourself. Why? Not because they're nice, because they want to hire you. so they just basically there, like, supporting, seeing what you learn, and being so impressed by what you're able to do, and they need so many more of you. So, I mean, that's basically what I got out of it when I was there. I mean, the companies were they were investing in you because they so much need your skills. And so this is wonderful club.
So one more question that I have is, can the seniors tell us what their plans are for next year?
Well, I'll start. As a senior, I'm planning to go to Cal Poly Pomona and study aerospace engineering. So
Excellent.
This is helping me a lot.
I'll be going to the University of California, Santa Cruz, and I'll be majoring in computer science.
Excellent.
I'll go the community college route and work my way up and transfer, because I feel like that seems like a more, it's an easier path, and it helps me save money, and
Yep.
I feel like I can build my skills more in community college.
That's good. It's a good route.
Yeah.
I'll be attending University of California, Berkeley, studying public health.
Great. And that's our seniors? Mr. Peterson, would you mind telling us a little?
I'm going to college next year.
Tell us about your work with the robotics team.
This is our 7th year working with Pioneers in Engineering, which is all student-run at UC Berkeley. And we've been fortunate enough to have students come from being a freshman, working their way through Pioneer in Engineering at the high school, then getting admitted to Cal, and then volunteering for Pi at the college level for our team, being mentors for our own students. So that's been very fun. It's a very rewarding experience. It's very fast 8 weeks,
and it's gone before you know it. And I'm just so happy for the incoming freshmen that we had 4 years ago. We're now able to win this one because it's been this is like our 7th year, and we only won once before, so this was a good time.
I'm also very impressed that you won the journalism award too, because I like to think of Albany as very well-rounded people. So you can code, you can write, you can communicate. I love to see that multidimensionality.
Go ahead. Please.
I think part of that was because we kept a video diary or video recordings of how our robot was working. So like we could kind of see the progression of how our building of our robot. And so I feel like that was a very innovative way to keep a journal of our robot.
Ah, interesting.
Charlie?
So this looks like a lot of fun. You have a very ingenious design, and one of you said something about trying to keep it simple. I wonder if you have anything you could share with us about the process that you used to come up with the basic design for how you were going to lift the table, how you were going to lift the food.
I'll go. So, in the past years, a lot of the design aspect of the robot came from a lot of the older members of the club. So this year we tried to split up the team into 2 parts, one for each aspect of the game, and together we like brainstormed in like large groups, and we debated about our ideas. So a lot of our younger members actually were part of were the main contributors in our design, such as Kevin, who contributed the main aspect of our rotating door thing for our food. And I think it was like a really good learning experience for the younger members to see like the advice given by the seniors, but the seniors weren't like overbearing over them, telling them what to do whatsoever.
Fabulous, thank you.
I really want to commend the Albany High robotics team. You have just served your high school so well. Mr. Peterson, thank you. I mean, this is just above and beyond the call of duty, and maybe you know it or not, but sometimes it's not just the accomplishments of these young men and women in building a robot, but it's the mentorship you provide for them. I don't think they're going to forget you.
You got a nice photo of all of them.
Wait, hold on.
No,
We have
okay.
one comment? Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Stand behind the.
And maybe hold the.
Hold
Some
it
of
up,
you should
yeah.
hold the awards so that.
Hold the awards, hold up the robot.
Those are cool awards, like little gears.
Yeah, isn't it? Get the awards up. Yeah, there you go.
We want this on the website. Oh, we were.
Thank you.
That's part of our evening. Thank you.
This is what it's about.
Yeah, this is.
Exactly. We'll take a quick breath and let our wonderful team get out of Dodge. Brings us to review and discussion items, budget update on the governor's May revise.
Thank you, President Rosenbaum. Trustees, I'd like to turn this portion over to our Chief Business Officer, Alan Gard.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Tonight I'll be providing a budget update on the Governor's May revise. This is important because we utilize this information and incorporate it into our local control accountability plan and our budget that we would bring forward to the board on June 9th for a review. So first we're going to look at some great news published by the Governor's May revise. We'll also look at some short-term and long-term impacts based off of that, and then look at some reactions and concerns. So it's great news for K-12 education across the state. Some of that great news is because they're going to provide over $6 billion to education, and that's billion with a B.
Alan, do you want to
Oh,
project the-
I am sorry. News is worth repeating. Get that up on the screen. Sorry about that.
There you go.
So $6 billion with the B.
For Albany, huh? Great.
Don't mislead the public. Remember blank.
So $6 billion increase for education across the state. And some of this funding is one-time funding, and another piece of it is ongoing funding. And the reason the state's able to do that is because the state really operates in a 3-year fiscal cycle, and that's mainly because of the tax revenues that they operate off of. And so the one-time revenues are coming off of the 2013-14 and 14-15 fiscal years, and the ongoing revenues are what's been projected for next year. So this is great news, but we also should learn from the past. And the reason I brought up the Roaring '20s is because during that time, there was this strong expectation that the good times would just keep coming. And I don't want to be a... I don't want to...
Wet blanket.
Yes, I don't want to be a wet blanket. But I just want to show caution with these good times, and that we utilize this additional funding wisely and strategically, because there is a time where there'll be a rainy day coming, and the state's projecting that it could come in the next couple of years, and we'll go more into that in future slides. But you know, one of my commitments, and I'm probably just echoing commitments from the board, is that we want to provide a comprehensive, consistent, and high-quality program. And so we want to try to balance some of this funding with the ebbs and flows of the future. And so I just want to remind the board that there's an 11-step process for the budget for the state, and we're just past the step 6, which is the publication of the May Revise. And so we're really only just over halfway completed with the budget process. However, even though we're just over halfway, we have to utilize this information in order to create our budget, because this is the latest official financial information before the state actually adopts in the end of June. So just briefly, the May Revise is providing an increase of $6 billion to our major funding mechanism, which is the local control funding formula. They're also providing $3.5 billion in one-time funding for implementing the California standards. And I just wanted to provide an update to the board on some funding that the governor recommended in January, which was increased to career technical education. He made a change in the May Revise to give priority to rural districts and districts with high dropout rates. I just want to note that currently Ed Code requires that 90% of the new funding goes to education, and the reason for that is because of what's called a maintenance factor. This maintenance factor is projected to be met in the next year or two, and with that means that we would not then be receiving 90% of new funding for education. Once the maintenance factor is met, we would be only receiving 40% of the new funding for the state, and so I just want to caution that on top of just the expiring taxes that I'll talk about in the future, there's also an Ed Code change that would impact how much funding the state is required to give education. So here's a chart which reflects the implementation of The local control funding formula, this is just reminding the board that this is a new formula that began in 2013-14. The reason we have to implement it and not just begin with a new formula is because in order to fully implement LCFF, it would require that the state increase education by over $18 billion. That's what some of the estimates were back in 2013. And so because they didn't have that, they needed to phase it in over time. And now they're saying that they're close to 90% of meeting that funding target. However, they kind of used different lenses based on what sounds great. And so before, instead of saying when they first implemented it that it would be 72% and then 80%, they were using the gap closure rate, which at the first year was 12%, and then the accumulated gap closure is now at 70%. Let's see. So I just want to let the board know that it will take a few more years in order to fully implement LCFF. And even though it's only 10%, as what the state's saying, it'll take long to get to that 10%.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is a little difficult for me to understand.
Sure.
And I'm the one that has to summarize this, for the highlights this time.
Sure.
So you're saying, I do understand you're saying that it's going to take several years projected for us to get to what was promised.
Yes.
However, there is going to be the expiration of certain taxes that you mentioned, such as Proposition 30. And are there any other factors other than a possible, recession, which is a natural historical?
The only other factor that will impact state funding is the maintenance factor, which means it's essentially a requirement on how much new funding goes to education. So currently, we're able to receive 90% of the new funding, but that is expected to go away in the next year or two, which would then mean we would drop to just receiving 40% of the new funding.
Now, why is that going away? Is it because they feel they've already reached their target, or is it some other reason?
It's mainly because of the Proposition 98 guarantee. There's a section in there which kind of talks about minimum funding towards education and how they haven't been meeting that minimum funding towards education.
Yes.
And so once they fully meet that minimum funding, which is expected in a year or two, then they wouldn't have to give as much funding towards education.
All right, so when did the minimum funding become the maximum?
Same time was always.
And it's 2007, 2008 funding, right? And take it back to the 2007, 8.
That's like two different things. It's like
Okay.
that's their goal, but it's
Okay. What I'd ask is when they did the funding, even they're saying that, is the minimum now the new maximum? Is this really accounting for what we need in 2015, 16, or future? Are we still funding to, back to 2007, 2008? And I said, it's two different things,
it's kind
but
of two different lenses. But the Proposition 98 has always been a minimum guarantee, but the state legislature has always treated it as a maximum.
Right, and they haven't even met the minimum.
And they haven't even met the minimum.
Charlie?
You may be getting to this in a later slide, but just to clarify, as you look forward in the next 3 years, are you projecting a decrease in funding, or are you simply projecting that the rate of increase will level off?
Good question. So over the next few years, I am not projecting a decrease in funding. It's a slower increase. And in order for us to receive more money each year, the state would need to provide increases of funding each year. So that increase of funding each year is just projected to be slower.
That helps.
So this is one of the impacts to Albany over the next few years. So this current year, we're expected to receive just about $3 million more than we're receiving this current year. And that's $3 million more in LCFF funding. So this is great news. I just want to clarify so that the circles are the actual funding growth over year for LCFF. The colored boxes are the state required commitments that we have to use from those dollars. And so the $3 million isn't $3 million more in available funding. That's actually much lower, possibly just over around $1 million for next year.
To clarify,
yes.
And that is because we have obligations to fund the things that you have listed here.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of reflects the impact over time with the slower growth from the state, is that they then would provide more funding but less growth over time. And so you could see 16, 17, 17, 18, a majority of the new funding is basically committed, so there's not a lot of flexibility. And in 18, 19, the commitments actually exceed the funding growth. So of the $3.5 billion to help implement the new California standards, a few years ago there was a cost estimate for the state that said that they needed to provide just about $5 billion in order for districts to implement these new standards. They've just about met that cost estimate because the $3.5 billion projected next year, and then the $1.25 billion back in 2012. And so because of that, it's hard to anticipate that there will be new funding in the future to help implement the new standards. And so we really need to utilize this funding wisely and plan and manage how we utilize this funding to implement these new standards.
Okay, let me just clarify. I'm kind of slow, so I have to repeat it to make sure I get it. So we did get some so there is one-time funding in this revised budget for this, but what you're saying is that we probably wouldn't get it again, so there's no requirement that we spend it in 1 year. What you're recommending is that we consider how to spend it over the long term. And what is the amount?
$2.25 million. And that's in addition to the $3 million in LCFF dollars.
Which is really $1 million.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay. For a total of really 3.25 million. Yes?
Yes. So here's a message from the State Superintendent of Public Instruction on his thoughts on the Governor's May Revise. And his focus is similar to our mission of preparing our students to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. And he's reminding everybody that this increase in funding is really just to try to make up for some of the cuts that occurred during the Great Recession. Luckily, we were able to stay away from some of the reductions that many other districts have made, such as layoffs and huge increases in class size and reduced school years. However, these reductions that Albany needed to make because of the dramatic cuts in funding, they were never really intended to be permanent. And so one of the challenges that we would need to do is, with this restoration and funding, we would need to balance kind of the needs of the district and, as what was discussed during the work study earlier, elementary talked about many needs that they have, and how do we help meet those needs? We really just need to take a look at this restoration and funding and seeing how do we use it wisely.
When you're referring to the restoration funding, are you referring only to the 1 million, or are you referring to the 1 million plus the 2.25 million? What do you call the restoration funding?
So the restoration is really just the 1 million.
Okay.
The 2.25 million is really just to help implement the new standards.
Okay, just getting a clarification.
Yes.
Very good.
Oh, I should just clarify though that some of the needs that the elementary schools were talking about were kind of in line with the new standards and some of the difficulties that they had. And so it's just seeing what funding we have and how we can help support our school sites.
I'm sorry, are you making reference to the special meeting that was earlier and some of the amount, the recommendations that they made? And what you're saying is that some of those recommendations might possibly be funded out of the 2.25 million because they're related to standards?
Right, I'm not recommending that we take those recommendations and just do it. I'm recommending that we factor in those recommendations as well as the input received from the whole local control accountability process, and take a look at the needs of the district as a whole, and really prioritize what we need to do with the restrictions and the different types of funding.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the School Services of California and Capital Advisors, they're both well-respected and well-informed agencies across the state related to education and policy and financial policy. And the people have been in existence for many years. They've seen all the ups and downs of the state and some of the bad decisions that school districts made during good times. And so they're both cautioning how we use this additional funding strategically. And so I just want to reinforce that that we need to use this funding strategically and in order to best suit our needs as a district, and take a look at the long-term plans that the state has as far as the funding impacts. And so, as mentioned in some previous board updates, the Proposition 30 taxes, which really help support education, is expected to expire over the years, and the governor is currently not backing a renewal of this tax. And also just reinforcing that the state budget is really volatile based on the stock market and the gains that high-income earners are able to provide through the stock market gains. And so at the Governor's May Revise, Governor Brown just reinforced that a recession is coming, it's inevitable, and that's a reality of California. And so using this information, we want to just proceed cautiously. So some of the next steps are at the next board meeting, we'll provide a public hearing for the budget and the local control accountability plan, where at the June 23rd meeting is where we would need to adopt the budget and LCAP. And with that, I could take any questions.
Charlie.
Could we go back 2 slides to the bar graph with Prop 30 taxes?
Mm-hmm.
What is the total state budget for education? Something like, is this roughly, are we looking at like 10% of the total?
Close to that. The budget for education is about 67 billion, and so this is in that range.
So the actual impact on the total state education budget of Prop 30 expiring is just going to depend on how revenues come in for the state over the next several years.
Correct.
This may or may not reflect what the state education budget actually looks like in total.
Correct.
Okay. But one other thing that I'm reminded of looking at these dates is we have a local parcel tax which will sunset, I think, perhaps 2019, 2020. I'm not really sure what that date is.
Because no one wants to think about it.
It's
6 years from this past fall. So that would be November 2020, I think.
It's starting this coming year, and so I believe it would expire in 2020-21.
So we have a little more time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good to think ahead. Always good to think ahead.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, thank you, Alan.
Thanks.
Thank you, very
Thanks,
clear.
Alan.
This brings us to Board Governance Handbook.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Oh, I got a promotion or
President Rosenbaum and trustees. We are bringing this back to the board in their continuing discussion on the Board Governance Handbook. And at the last time we discussed this item, board had made comments and recommendations for staff to come back with some language around our student board members. And so, and I want to thank Vice President Black for helping me with this and really looking at the wording, not only in the governance handbook, but we will be bringing back to the board at the next board meeting, the board bylaws. So this is for review, and I believe this is an action item.
This is a review.
I'm sorry, this is a review and discussion. We're still in review and discussion item on the board governance handbook. And I believe it's on page
So we're looking at
32 of the board packet.
Right, the changes, though,
are way further.
They are. They're in.
They're on page 66.
60.
Some of it's on page, let's see, 59.
There's a new protocol before that.
In Appendix C on page 66, you have some text in red, which is an addition.
Right, but there's something before that. There's a new protocol. There's an issue.
Duties and responsibilities of student board members.
That's right.
That's on page 59 of the packet.
50.
Under,
So
Right, that one wasn't highlighted in red.
issue 20.
Oh, that's why I didn't see it.
Issue 22 has been added, in other words.
Yes.
So maybe, Paul, you could take us through this?
Okay, well, this is based on CSBA sample plus what we actually do. So just making it more explicit what our practices are with regard to student board members. Let's see, I'll go through this quickly. There's a little bit about training of student board members, and the superintendent will be responsible for the training. It's up to the president to make sure that their voices are heard during meetings, and that is reflected in the meeting protocols later in the appendix. Student board members receive all non-confidential information and communications received by other board members, but we understand they may not have time to read everything.
That seems realistic.
And just a little bit more about the student board member report, just encouraging them to that they can bring up new topics during their report. They don't only have to report on what has been done, but if there's something going on at the school that is of concern to students that they would like the board to know about, they can mention that also.
Well, that's really important language, I think, that maybe we could read out loud. Student board members are encouraged to let other board members know about specific student concerns, such as maintenance issues, new classes that students would like to see implemented, or problems with morale, et cetera, et cetera.
Those are good examples.
Yes.
Now, I should mention the CSBA sample included as one thing that student board members might be allowed to do if the board wished it, would be to make motions that the board would then vote on. I think that applies more to boards that are running their meetings using something like, more formal
Robert's Rules.
Robert's Rules or something like that, where nothing is proposed that isn't a motion, that every comment on a standing motion is made in the form of another motion. Since we have a more informal practice, I didn't think that was that relevant an issue for us, because essentially the student board members would be proposing motions that, while they could give a advisory vote on, they couldn't actually help pass. But it seemed more important that they be able to add items to the agenda if there was something that they felt should be discussed. So I specifically called that out.
In that last bullet point?
That last bullet point, that
Okay.
they do have that option. That they can, just as any other board member, they can request that items be put on the agenda, which would then eventually come up for a vote.
Do you think it would be useful to say the specific place that it's described in the?
In the handbook?
Yeah.
Um,
in the specific protocol, or just to be a little bit more.
Sure, we could do
easier
that.
to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, it would just be using the procedure described in protocol X.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Isabel, do you have any thoughts or input or?
I think that the ability to request items being placed on the agenda is really a good step, and I think that that's important for student board members in case there is something that comes up that the board is not aware of. It's good for the students to have that ability.
I agree.
Okay, so there's another issue that's not in here. It's in the board bylaw that we'll be looking at next time. It's mentioned in bullet item 1, and it's how the student board members are selected. According to Ed Code, it's the school board that specifies how student board members are selected, but it's my personal feeling, and we can discuss this in the next meeting when we discuss the bylaw, that the student board members should come up with the process themselves, and then the board can approve it. But I don't think we should be directing them as to how to do it.
Wait, the process of how
The student
student board members are selected at the high school?
Yes.
But Isabel did, and I apologize because I have been too busy to participate in this process with you. Isabel did share with me the two separate, very, actually pretty prescribed processes by which the student members are selected at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually the item in which I was more interested, for the board to understand that and to see whether there was a role that we should or should not play in recruitment or in information.
Okay, well, that is addressed specifically in the student bylaws, so that would be a great time to address it if you can be at the next meeting.
At the next meeting, of course. Mm-hmm.
Because there's a divergence in that the Ed Code says that the board comes up with the process. So, if it's the will of the board, then we might say, well, we want you to come up with the process.
Because I found it really
And if
interesting.
you have a process, then we have to just agree to it.
Right, I mean, I found it very interesting for Isabel, she wrote it out exactly for me, and you can just bring that and describe the two
Great.
separate processes for the two, because they're actually two completely separate processes for the two board members, and I never knew all these years what it
Right.
was.
In fact, if you provided that to Jackie for the next agenda packet, she could include it in the board background.
Okay, and I'm happy to explain it. It's pretty simple. But
And it's changed over the years, so maybe we want to formalize it and agree to it.
Right. So
Great.
that'll be for next time.
So we have we will be agendizing the review of the board bylaws specific to student board members, correct? That one piece of it?
Yeah.
And that's a review and discussion item, yes.
That will be a review and discussion item, which will then be brought back as an action
item on the June 23rd board meeting. We'll bring it back as an action item.
Right.
You don't have to be there for that one.
Right.
Unless you want to.
Okay, so on page 66 is the addition to the, what do we call this?
It's an appendix?
The rules of order.
Yeah, rules of order. Rules of order. And that's highlighted in red.
Yes.
And again, it's just actually describing current practice, just putting it down so that future boards will know that this is the procedure. And it's encouraging student board members to participate in all discussions, basically, and to note that the president has to facilitate that and make sure that they get their voice heard, and that if they disagree with the rest of the board on something, even though they can't, even though their vote is advisory and they can't vote something down, the president can make sure that their opinions and reasoning are memorialized in the minutes, which I think is important.
And encouraged.
Right.
Any other comments, questions? Yes. Did you have, John?
Well, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the rewrite. I think it's really well done. Thank you for doing it. I'm very happy with it. One very minor question would be, we have the new text that appears in the rules of order, which starts with student board members have the right to participate, and it goes on from there. And then if I go back to page, page 60, at the end of issue 22, there's a pointer to board bylaws 9150 and the AUSD rules of order. I think the pointer is pretty helpful. My question is, would it be helpful to have that same pointer to the rules of order appear in the first sentence, in the first bullet under protocol? Right now it says student board members are selected and have rights and responsibilities as described in board bylaws.
Or we could specify which bylaw.
Well, that, and I'm wondering if it would be useful to, at that point, say, and the AUSD rules of order. Because you've got that nice text in there that says, that really lays out the rights and responsibilities in the rules of order. So that might be another place where you could just put that pointer.
Makes sense to me. Anyone else?
So I just want clarification. So I understand where you're talking about. So you're saying the note at the bottom of the last bullet, you would also like to see that same note where?
Well, I wouldn't put the note. I think the note, I mean, as I read this, the note kind of applied to the whole of this statement. It wasn't specific to that last bullet.
Correct.
But of course, I read from top to bottom. And so when I read protocol, student board members are selected and have rights and responsibilities as described in board bylaws. I thought it would be helpful to me reading it if I had a pointer right there to the AUSD rules of order.
So it would read as described in board bylaws and the AUSD rules of order.
Yeah, because then I know I could just go look in Appendix C instead of trying to find the bylaws.
Yeah, it gets a little bit redundant, but it's helpful.
That was my only suggestion. I have a completely different question, and that is, this is the only section which we have so far attempted to make any revisions on. Is that correct?
Do you mean the governance handbook?
You mean recently?
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is that I recall the recent board meeting when we went through the handbook, we talked about making changes in the item which is now labeled superintendent evaluation.
Yeah, we should be reviewing the entire handbook at some time or in pieces. I'm not sure where that is on the
Well, my
governance
recollection
calendar.
is at that meeting, whenever we talked about it, and perhaps one of us was going to do that, and perhaps that one of us might even have been me. I don't remember.
Or me, I'm starting to feel a little paranoid myself. Was it
But
me?
I think you brought up a question, and then we never decided who was going to look at it.
Maybe that's it. Under issue 16, basically, it's called evaluation of the superintendent.
Right.
But it really includes two completely separate topics. One is the evaluation of the superintendent, and the other is district goals and success indicators.
Right.
And my recollection is we talked about just splitting this into two issues, one for district goals and success indicators, and a second for superintendent evaluation.
You're right.
And I didn't want to lose track of that. I just wanted to bring it up, not to make any of us feel guilty about it, but.
So would anybody on the board care to bring us some proposed language? Charlie?
I could certainly do that, and my suggestion would be, and I think I just want to touch base with Val on this.
That's a
I
good
think
idea.
she was in agreement before that would be a good idea, but I'd like to actually maybe work with you on that. My suggestion would, it's pretty straightforward. The first 4 bullets in there really refer to district goals and success indicators and have nothing to do with the superintendent evaluation. They would go somewhere separate, and then the rest of it would stay.
Yeah, I remember that discussion.
But I'd like to work with Val on that.
I'd be happy to work with you. I also remember, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was also discussion around that the board goals needed to be separate from the, not separate from, but there was comments about the board goals really not being board goals. They look like district goals, the current board goals, and that should be separate, that they should be goals that the board set for themselves, and that the district goals and success indicators was separate.
Yes, we
That-
did
that's
discuss
separate.
that. That's a separate issue,
That's a
but we
separate
did
issue.
discuss that,
Well, that's
yes.
a separate issue, and then I remember that I described historically that there was an argument before with, I think, previous board members, and the board had discussed that our goals should not generally be separate, that our role was to support the strategic plan and the district's goals. However, the exception would be a board goal which supported one of the plans. Example, we wanted better communication. So then the separate board goal was we would help to facilitate better communication by writing board highlights. So, so I'm not saying that that's what we should agree to, but that was sort of the general consensus, that it didn't make sense for us to have separate goals unless they just happen to be something more specific to our role that would support the strategic plan
Yeah.
and those goals. Is my memory?
Yes, your memory is correct.
Yes.
And I think, in order to not keep bringing this up, we need to put it on the agenda.
Because we keep
and come
repeating
up-
ourselves,
And come
yeah.
up with wording and settle on it.
So let me see if I can put some of this together. So we're going to add, I'm just looking because we have 2 more board meetings in June. So I'm going to add the
This isn't
board.
urgent, so-
It's not urgent,
It's-
you know.
okay, so maybe I can-
I would suggest that in terms of this issue 16 evaluation of the superintendent, I can draft a 16A and a 16B, shall we say, and I will send it to Val. And I particularly want to have you go through it because it does have to do with the evaluation of the superintendent.
You're right,
Yes.
though. I mean, if we just put a line under
Yeah.
the 4th bullet, now that I look
Right,
at it.
so it's not urgent,
Yeah,
I
good
think, if Charlie agrees with this, it's not urgent because he's not really proposing changing the protocol, just clarifying the organization of the handbook by dividing it into 2 protocols.
So I can bring this as a review and discussion item at the first August meeting, and then bring it for review and action at the second August board meeting.
And,
Thank you,
you know, I'm
Charlie.
thinking about what Pat said, is, you know, maybe the protocol needs to be the relationship of the board to the district goals. Your point was really well taken, at least by me, is that, you know, we are here to support the district goals, and our goals need to reinforce that.
Yeah, we need some proposed wording that we
Yeah.
can discuss.
There was also, Paul also, I remember, made the point that, what was the point of our self-evaluation then? So
Right.
the point of our self-evaluation was, how well are we, A, helping to support those goals? So then, do you remember that? there was
Yeah, my point was that board goals should not be the same as district goals. They should be goals that makes the board work better.
But is that about process rather?
That probably more often would be about process rather than a deliverable of some sort.
Okay, so the process though, I mean, then that actually just ties in with the governance handbook. That's what we do.
Exactly.
That's what we do when we discuss the governance handbook. We discuss how we can better function as a governing body. That's different. That's different than how well we are supporting the district goals and the superintendent, isn't it?
Probably.
I'm starting to get dizzy.
Me too.
Okay, so
That's
when
why
was the
we
last
need
time
some proposed wording so that we can see if that's what we mean.
May I make a suggestion? In the, we know that our strategic plan is going to sunset or need revision by the spring of 2016. So we will be working on it throughout the year. I'm wondering if it's also a good time to look at the board goals so that the board can make a decision on what goal they want to do, what you would like to use in terms of supporting the strategic plan and the district, and what you would like to keep sort of separate as a board goal for your own governance. Does that make sense, or would that be helpful?
I don't think it would make sense until we
Understand what board goals are.
until we understand what the district goals are going to evolve to, because we want to be supporting, and what those are.
But we also need goals that drive the district policy as well. So we draw, it's sort of mutual. It's symbiotic, I guess. Charlie?
I'm going to reach back into history again. Historically, the board would set a series of goals in January, and it would just be a very limited set of, this is what the board would really like to work on and see get accomplished during this year. And that's really all they were.
Right, but those ended up being kind of overlapping completely with district goals, and that's why Pat and others suggested just eliminating them. But then I thought we shouldn't eliminate them, we should just be more careful about what we make into a board goal. It's something that really only applies to the board. If it's something that only the board can do, that supports the district, then that's a board goal. If it's something that actually the district has to do or the board is just telling the superintendent to do, then that's not a proper
Yeah, that's
board
not, because that's not appropriate, because that's just extra work on top of.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's something.
We might be creating a monster here,
Yeah,
actually.
I think maybe we're making it a little more complicated than it needs to be. I think there was always something short-term about the board goals. It's what the board's going to work on this year, particularly wanting to focus on. Some of the district goals and objectives might have a more long-term character that, you know, these are objectives.
What the board wants to get done this year, that kind of thing.
This is getting so
Which is
confusing.
flexible. I have a suggestion, so I'll we schedule some kind of a discussion in August. where we
Would it help
fresh-
if I also agendize a board discussion item on, I think what you said is, what is a board goal?
Yeah.
And the board can discuss it. Might be an interesting work study session if the board wanted to just talk about that. What is a board goal?
If we do, we haven't decided on whether or not we'll have a board retreat, but if we do, that might be a perfect thing to take up.
For example,
It might be.
I have used this example for so long, that we want to help with communication, so we write these board highlights. Sometimes I think to myself when I'm sweating over these, who looks at these? Does anyone pay any attention to these? What actually, how could we be more effective in, I mean, we're trying to communicate, that's one of the strategic plans. We're trying to reach out. We've talked about constituent outreach. We've talked about all this. Are there more effective ways for us to be doing it?
Yeah,
How do we measure the effectiveness of what we decided to do?
Right. I think
data.
Right. I think, Pat, I'm not completely sure whether that's a good example or not, because how the board is effective in communicating might be the same as how the district is effective in communicating, or it might be separate, and I'm not sure. But I like the idea of putting this on the agenda for a future meeting when we can really hash it out.
Putting what on the agenda?
The question of what is a board goal?
What is it?
Okay.
And how does it relate? And I'm suggesting we bring it up in a retreat.
So would the board like to have me agendize a discussion item for an August board meeting, or would you like to have it in the board retreat?
I'm happy to have it in the retreat if that's...
What is the purpose of this retreat?
When I first started, we had the half-day board retreat where Carolyn Finders came and talked about communication, and we'd also talked about supporting me as a new superintendent. So it's usually the board has a half-day retreat annually where you can discuss any item that you would like to for the coming year in terms of your own retreat with the superintendent. And so we could have it, again, facilitated by Carolyn Finders, who she says she's willing to come back, and would do it on any topic we discuss. So if the topic of discussion was, what is a board goal, we could have that as one of our main topics to discuss, or any other discussion topic that the board would like to have with me as your superintendent.
So it's basically a 3 to 4 hour extra meeting.
I would like it to, if I'm going to spend 3 to 4 hours talking about something, I want to be clear about what I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so I want to be talking about what is an effective board goal relative to effective school boards research. What do we know? And I'm sure I was very confident and felt that Carolyn came with some background and some experience in that. So I want as part of that to frame that discussion. What do effective school boards in high achieving districts do when they create a board goal? How long? Do they? What's the timeline for those? How much do they break those down? So I want it to be very, very specific. I want to come out of there knowing exactly how I would try to implement this to be a more effective board member.
So what I would like to suggest then, because I did not write any of that fast enough, I'm hoping Jackie took really good notes, that if this is something that usually the board president, vice president, superintendent work with the person who's going to facilitate the board retreat, that we can work with Carolyn, and then the members can give feedback specifically what you want, because Carolyn's going to want to know what she needs to prepare for.
I think I understand you, and I think that's a great idea.
So, Val, would you solicit input from all the board members so we don't violate Brown Act?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll have Jackie she'll make sure that gets out to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Are we good? Any comments from the audience?
Okay, so just to be clear, the board handbook is not something we vote on. So if we have consensus on the changes here with the changes that Pat and Charlie suggested, just a couple of extra words here and there to refer to other parts, then that will just become part of the handbook.
Yes, thank you very much for drafting it and letting us pick out a little thank you.
And Trustee Blanchard and I will work on the section 16, A and B. Okay?
Great. Moves us to review and action items. Approve appointee to the City of Albany Parks and Rec Committee.
What page?
Page
68.
Thank you, thank you.
So I'm very, very pleased to ask the board to approve the appointee to the City of Albany Parks and Rec Committee, Britt Tanner. And the City of Albany City Council requires appointments made by the Board of Education to run concurrently with municipal elections, and appointments are due January 2015. So we're a little bit late on that. But we did post on the AUSD website and our Facebook page and our local newspapers, and we are recommending Britt. And is Miss Britt? There she is. Britt, come on up, please. Britt is a licensed civil and traffic engineer and has been working with San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency for 15 years. Very impressive. And she's a longtime East Bay resident. You just moved to Albany a few years ago, I believe?
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago.
Okay. And so she wrote what I know if the board has read this, a really nice letter to the board. And so we're very, very excited to recommend Ms. Britt Tanner to be on this committee. And this is a review and action item.
Charlie?
So thank you so much for volunteering. The city committees and commissions are really an important part of Albany, and I really appreciate your willingness to serve. We haven't met before, but I feel like I know you because I've seen your really good questions and suggestions posted on the Strollers and Rollers listserv. So I have a sense of, what kind of questions you would like to ask. And thank you very much.
It'd be an honor.
Go ahead, go on.
Oh, so I just wanted to, I know you can read my thing, but just to make you feel good about appointing me, I have a kindergartner at Cornell, and I think that my experience working with the city gives me really good perspective about how city processes actually work, because I know that there's limited budgets, different needs, and different stakeholder interests, and so I understand how city processes work, and so I feel like my perspective as a parent, and also as someone who knows how the city actually gets things done, would bring value to the Parks and Rec Commission. So I'd be happy to do it. We go to what we call the Corkscrew Playground, the Memorial Park, every weekend. I bike on the Alona Greenway every day, and I would just really like to contribute and bring my skills to the city, since my children will be going to these parks for the next 15 years. So.
Wonderful. Pat?
Well, I thank you so much for volunteering to serve on behalf of the students and the board. I read the email, and I was particularly taken with this sentence. Through my work, I have extensive experience with the sausage-making process of city projects, including community outreach, working with the various and often conflicting needs of various stakeholders, and limited funding resources, yet high expectations. You are perfect for Albany. Okay. I read that, and I really felt good about that. And then the other thing I'm going to say, this is not to scare you off. I scare everyone off. They run away from me in Trader Joe's, but I'll give you the pitch. I know right now that you're a mother of a young child and you're a working person, but when we make these appointments, we also very much are looking for more people to serve on the board in the future. So we look forward to continuing to work with you and to seeing you periodically. And as your child progresses up, or your children progress up through the schools, we hope that you'll consider serving in others as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you're saying this is a bold new step down a slippery slope?
No, because I scare everyone away in Trader Joe's trying to get them. So I'm just saying that this is wonderful, and we very much appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Consider yourself recruited.
Yes, as everyone else has said, thank you for volunteering. I was impressed by two things with your letter. One is that you're clearly thinking not only about Parks and Rec, but how Parks and Rec relate to kids and the children of Albany, which is important, of course, as you're the school board appointee. And the other is that you're actually a licensed civil and traffic engineer, and yet you can write English. So that's impressive also.
Yes. So I do a lot of community outreach, and so I've learned that you need to speak in the right language and be able to communicate with people. Because when I want to install a bulb out, I can't call it a bulb out. I have to say that I'm going to widen the sidewalk at the corner to make the crossing shorter so that people will understand what I'm talking about. So
that's great. Appreciate
And I
it.
hope to install lots of bulb outs along the Alona Greenway, hopefully, but we'll see what happens.
You know, as a driver, I always thought bulb outs were just a pain, and I hated them until somebody said, this makes the crosswalk shorter and it's safer for pedestrians. And I said, oh, maybe it is a good idea. No one ever says that. So I'm thankful that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So do we have a motion?
Okay. Let me see, I want to make sure to get your name right. It's
Britt Tanner.
Ms. Tanner, okay. I move to approve Britt Tanner for the school board's appointment to the Parks and Recreation Committee with our thanks.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ron?
Yes.
I just wanted to add one comment, I guess. I don't think we've ever really expected our appointees to kind of represent the board on these committees or commissions. We've generally hoped that they bring their own expertise and experience. But I think we have sometimes asked that they come back and tell us what's going on.
That is a standard.
Not every
Once a
month,
year,
you know,
usually.
not every, but yeah, with some frequency.
No, we have discussed that.
Okay.
And that is our desire, that they
Good.
come back at least once a year to
Should be on our
report to the
calendar,
board.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Britt. That brings us to approved contract with OHO Technology for the Albany High School security upgrade.
Thank you. Now I'll turn this over to Mr. Allengard.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. And so tonight we're bringing forward a contract with OHO Technology for the Albany High School security camera upgrade. This will double the number of cameras at the school site, as well as help with just the continuous security and monitoring needs of the site throughout the day as well as at night. After many meetings with the school site to specifically understand their needs, also working with the technology department and maintenance and operations, we were able to identify a scope that will address the school site's needs as well as fit the budget in place for the project. And so with that, we're bringing forward OHO Technology to do the upgrade this summer.
Questions? Paul?
I apologize because I didn't ask this question in advance, so if you don't have a ready answer, that's all right. It won't change my vote on this, but I was curious if you know or the superintendent knows how the videos that are recorded are reviewed. Are they only looked at if there's been an incident? Are they looked at in some regular basis? When do people actually look at them?
Do you mean current practice? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I did get an answer to one question, which is how long this data lasts, and it's 14 days.
Correct.
So if it's not reviewed within 14 days and then the loss is discovered a month later, we've lost any chance of catching the perpetrator. So I was wondering if and how they're reviewed.
We can find the specific answer. I'd have to talk to Dr. Barone, but I would suspect that the tapes are reviewed if there's an incident that happened. To review tapes on a regular basis, we just don't have the staffing capacity for that. So
I can talk about the current system because I'm the one who had it installed in 2003, 2004. That's how old it is and struggled with its deficiencies all along. The current system, at least when I was working with it, lasted more than 14 days because everything was set off by motion. So even during the day when there were kids in the hallway, during class when there's nobody walking past the camera, it doesn't record. So really 14 days I think is very conservative because the technology should be able to keep tapes a lot longer. In the past, when there was an incident, that's when it was reviewed.
Well, this isn't tapes. It's.
I mean the digital.
Okay, I'm sorry. Are you saying, Board Member Rosenbaum, that you think that actually this has the capacity to store?
If the storage is the same, and I think it's got to be a lot more storage. Of course, we'll be storing color So, you know, I mean, this takes up
It's
a lot more.
data,
lot more.
yeah.
The one of the good things about this storage is that it'll be on a server, and that we're able to adjust and expand the amount of storage capacity
Or you can just add
if
more
needed.
disks.
Yeah, we would just add more disks. The 14 days that we have in this system is kind of just based on just some of the. It's basically like a typical school district needs on how much storage they have. But if after we start using the system, if we feel like 14 days really isn't enough, then we have the ability to expand.
I think that originally nobody heard of a terabyte when we first installed that. It's truly.
No,
it's true.
It's true.
And it's on a server. It's on an. I think there were 2 servers that at least at the time were in the principal's office, and a monitor, and you look at it when something's going on.
So that was a good question. So the capacity to expand is at reasonable cost then?
Correct.
Okay.
Memory is not expensive now.
Yeah.
Is there any thought of cloud storage as well, or external storage?
I don't know if that was considered, but I can.
That raises the issue of us not storing our own data.
Yeah.
Well, it could be backed up to the cloud, but.
Backed up. I mean, as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
Because when there's an incident, you want to see it right away. And the current system, it's very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, it did help. I mean, originally, when I became principal at the high school, the problem was fire alarms. The year before I came in, fire alarms were going off almost every day. We had the same problem when I was in Oakland Tech, and we solved it with cameras. Had a camera pointed at every fire alarm, and then the students knew, the principal said, you know, if a fire alarm gets pulled and you're caught, you're going to jail. It was really clear, and it only happened once in 4 years. And I'm still in touch with that student over 10 years later. And his mom, who thanked me so much. I think we only had 2 pulls in the 4 years I was there, once we put in the cameras. So they do add, they make things really secure.
I think, you know, my son just graduated from the high school. I think it's a really good idea because, you know, for better or for worse, and because Albany is a nice community, the high school's a very, very open campus. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is, it's, you know, it's a significant amount of money, but given my experiences, I think it's a worthwhile investment.
And it's about time, definitely. Ross.
It's an issue to get the student board reps.
Excellent
Yes.
idea.
What do you think, Isabel?
I think that the security cameras, as you said, definitely do their job in more than catching students in the act of preventing them from doing it in the first place, and that's really important. In terms of the safety of the campus itself, I don't know if I've ever felt unsafe on campus, but I have had times where I've forgotten something in my locker and I've had to go really late at school and I'm surprised that it's open. And that's never been an issue for our school, but I suppose that if there were ever an issue, it's nice to have it recorded and so that the perpetrators can be brought to the justice that's seen fit.
I mean, in my thought, it's not to punish people, but to be aware of you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
And then to appropriately respond, but to create a sense of better sense of security, and also not losing a lot of time in the classroom because you're going out on fire alarms every day or twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it just supports and the current system just can't see everything, and it's not for spying.
Right.
That's why the only fire alarm that is not on camera is in the boys' locker room. We're not spying, and there are no cameras inside of classrooms, at least the current system. And I would advise keeping it that way.
Yes.
So do we have a motion or any other comments?
I'll move we approve the contract with OHO
You
Technology.
have public comment?
Comment, come on up.
Well, the motion can stand, but.
Yeah, the motion is on.
Hi, I'm Susan Adams. I'm just commenting because I work in the vice principal's office where the
cameras are used. And I don't think that there would be the possibility of monitoring the feed. I mean, that's a minute-by-minute proposition, and
Impossible.
it would take forever. But I will say that Tammy in particular has gotten quite good at finding things on the camera, and I know that there have been several instances where we've retrieved someone's laptop computer that's been misappropriated and stashed in a restroom or something like that, because you can watch the kid walk down the hall, duck into the bathroom, come back out, then you can go in there and look in the wastebasket or whatever. These things happen. And I think having more cameras and better resolution will be helpful, because it often is very difficult to really tell who is that person, what is that they're carrying, or so on. And I agree that our campus is so open that having something that will allow us to monitor people who come on and off of campus, because we do often have people who step in to visit for a little while. And so from my experience in the vice principal's office, an improvement in the cameras is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. We did have an incident way back when where we had somebody from off campus, and we were able to actually review cameras because they went up the back staircase in the gym and destroyed the area, tagged it. It's just thousands of dollars, and we actually were able to figure out who this outsider was, and it really helped. So just keeping your outside, because it is very open, and it takes hours to look at the cameras the way they are now, because you have to go back in time and hours to figure out any of that.
Yeah, and this is actually a research area of mine. And if it takes hours now, I don't think it will soon. And it doesn't have to inform our decision today, but we may down the line be looking at policies on surveillance and privacy and all that in an era where the machine will tell you, well, it was this particular guy, I know because I know how he walks, what he looks like, his height, running against the student handbook or the student yearbook to do facial recognition. And it'd be entirely right to revisit it then to say, is it a better policy on privacy and respect of to not do this or sequester that or require X and Y and Z for review? Another issue is, and I'm sure this has come up already as well, is cell phone cameras, and what do we do about the fact that anybody now is essentially a surveillance point if they want to be. But for right now, I think it's pretty straightforward.
There's a lot of interesting questions, and it changes with time very quickly. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Brings us to approving the tentative agreement with California School Employees Association. And we have to have an open public hearing?
That is correct.
So I will open the public hearing. Do we have any public statements? I will
87.
I will close the public hearing. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you. On May 1st, 2015, representatives for the district and the CSEA, which is the California School Employees Association, reached a tentative agreement to resolve bargaining for the 14-15 school year. And we're recommending that the board approve the tentative agreement between the district and CSEA. And then I believe the district and CSEA would then begin the process for bargaining for the 15-16 school year. And the financial information is attached on the board agenda item.
Any questions, comments? Charlie?
So I'm happy that we'll be able to approve this. I thought I would just observe that because we have several of these on the agenda and we had one last time, the actual cost increases for health and welfare benefits are just a little bit confusing, expressed on a percentage basis. And I thought it might be easiest just to ignore the numbers and recognize that what we are doing is we're providing the same increase of total compensation to all of our staff. You know, it's the same percentage increase on the salary schedule, and it's the same increase in covering, or we're providing the increased cost to health and benefits for everyone. I just wanted to make that observation.
So would you like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the tentative agreement with California School Employees Association.
Second? I'll second.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia, for all your hard work. That brings us to approved tentative agreement with the Service Employee International Union, SEIU.
Thank you. And again, also on May 15th, 2015, representatives for the district and SEIU reached a tentative agreement to resolve bargaining for the 2014-15 school year. And once the TA is approved, the business department, as we also did with CSEAs, to move forward with retroactive payments to all SEIU members by June 30th, 2015. And SEIU and the district will begin the process of bargaining for the 15 school year. And just to note, this also applies to CSA, that there will be a retroactive payment, I believe, to June 30th, to effective July 1, 2014. Thank you.
Any comment, questions? Motion.
I move we approve the agreement between the Service Employees International Union and the Albany Unified School District.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Susan?
Oh,
You're welcome.
Actually, point of order, we needed to do a public hearing on this, open the public hearing, then close it.
I'm opening a public hearing on the agreement with SEIU. Any comment and public comment? And I will close the public meeting. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
That brings us to, I'm doing 4 things at once. Approving the compensation increase for certificate management and classified management.
Thank you. The purpose of this item is for the Board of Trustees to approve the compensation increase for certificated and classified management. And I will be bringing the next one for confidential and unrepresented employee groups. Our administrative team, our leadership team works very, very hard to make sure that our schools are not only managed and run efficiently and well, but that they also are leaders in our district. And their main focus is to ensure that our students are very, very successful. And so I am recommending that the board approve the compensation increase for certificated management and classified management employees. And I'll make a point of order, this does not include the superintendent.
Oh, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Please.
This is fine. I am interested at some point, I think I don't know if I had mentioned this in open session before, of seeing a, what's it called, a salary survey of the county, so that we could see where our administrative staff falls on within the spectrum in the county. I do understand that those surveys, and we've looked at them in the past, are sometimes confusing because some districts will tell you plus health and welfare and some will not. But whatever, there's no hurry on this, and I guess other people would have to agree with me before we decide to take action on it. But it's just something I think would be responsible for us to know in how well we are paying our administrators relative to the county average. What do you think, Paul?
Well, I would second that, but I would actually like to see not just Alameda, but West Contra Costa included in that, because really we're closer to some of those districts than we are to some of the districts in Albany.
It's a very good point. My understanding was that sometimes the county office was actually generating some of those. I'm just kind of feeling bad giving you more work, but
Usually what the county office will do is they'll first start looking at certificated personnel. Classified is a little bit different because there's so many different classifications. They have been asking.
This is administrative.
Yes, they have been asking districts recently to bring forward what their management salaries are. I have already given Cynthia the task for the 15-16 school year to begin a salary study for administrators to look at salary and compensation.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
The difficulty is, we've done this in the past, and the difficulty in the past has been actually getting the figures for total compensation from each district, because each district compensates different ways. Some have health and welfare on the salary schedule, some it's separate, so getting actual figures that we could use to compare has always been really difficult.
We would have to look at total compensation, but the county
districts don't
superintendents have agreed to actually work with the county Office of Education to providing these kinds of numbers.
But getting it from individual districts, is that going to be solved?
I think it's going to be easier to do in Alameda County because the superintendents have agreed to do this work.
That's wonderful.
To work on, in my previous district, I did a certificated classified and administrative salary comparison, and it does take an amount of time. It took me about 2 years to do all three, but the administrative salary comparisons weren't that difficult because there are less amounts of categories.
Okay.
The classified categories were really large. Certificated, depending on, had all different kinds of compensation. It's a little bit easier for administrators. We need to put that data together.
Okay, thank you.
Great, so we have need a motion.
Is this a public hearing also? I don't think it is for administration.
No, because they're not represented.
Okay.
So we are on item E. Do we have a motion?
I'll move we approve the compensation increase for our management.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brings us to item F, approve compensation for increase for confidential and unrepresented employee groups.
And we do have a group that is unrepresented, and so we call them our confidential and unrepresented employees groups. And we are asking for the same compensation increase to be added for this group of unrepresented employees.
Questions or comments? Paul?
I believe this includes some professional staff, such as psychologists. Is that right?
That is correct. Psychologists, behaviorists, maybe Cynthia can help me with all of these. Occupational therapists.
Okay. And
so our HR confidential employees also, district office confidential employees.
And do we know how competitive we are on these salaries?
In some ways, in some of the classifications, we are competitive. In some, we are not. I mean, I have to be really honest. So there are, I would say, 3 of these groups, I believe, who are unrepresented. We are looking at salary comparisons right now to take a look at them. And Cynthia can add more information.
So one of the things we have to look at when we're doing a salary comparison, especially for, well, not especially, for both certificated and classified, is not just looking at, of course, we have to look at total compensation, but we also have to look at requirements for education and certifications. So it's, you have to tease out a lot when you are doing salary comparisons, especially for classified employees.
So this particular area is going to be much more difficult to look at because there are several factors you have to look at in those comparisons.
I think we're glad that we're moving forward in doing these investigations so that we can compensate people appropriately and keep the best and the brightest here.
Absolutely.
John?
I just wanted to confirm, since the details don't say this, we do indeed provide a full health and welfare coverage to this group of people.
For this group, yes, we do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just not mentioned. Do we have a motion?
So I move that we approve the compensation increase for confidential and unrepresented employee groups.
Second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we've got another tentative agreement. Approve the tentative agreement between the California School Employees Association and the Unified School District on job descriptions.
Thank you. I know there were several questions on this item, so I want to talk a little bit about process. When job descriptions come up for review, there are certain areas that have some legal aspects and some that do not. So by way of an example, if I were to create, or Cynthia were to create a brand new job, and we had to have a job description, the job title and the salary range is a negotiable item. What is written into the job description for a brand new job description is not negotiable. However, it is best practice to work in collaboration with our association leadership to come to agreement on that job description. Once that job description is approved, any revisions to that job description, whether it be the addition, the elimination, or the change, must be negotiated. So I believe last year CSCA and the district agreed in its collective bargaining agreement to review job descriptions, and I believe they've met several times this year to review in great detail the job descriptions that you see before you. And so the agreement has come to the board for the revision of these job descriptions. Many of them are to bring language into the 21st century. So for example, you may not see anybody saying anything about using a manual typewriter, the ability to use shorthand, or to use an NCR form. It's more using computers and more up-to-date language. But there were some other negotiated areas in terms of the job description. So we're recommending that the board approve the revisions to the job descriptions. And I don't know if we have Cynthia's here, and also Susan is here if the board has any questions.
I know there was some discussions about, oh gosh, what am I thinking about?
There were two. One was in the area of adding non-discrimination language, and and also to address the issues around Title I and Title V of the American with Disabilities Act that allows for or encourages that if a person has a disability that they can apply for and will be considered equally for a position. What we have done, Ms. Manabusen has added language to our, let me see if I got this correctly, to our job. It's has always been in the job postings. So that's always been standard practice. But we've added actually the information to our district website. So both, there's a reasonable accommodations language that we're putting in our job descriptions. We already have it in our job postings. We have the ADA compliance information in our job postings. We're going to add them to our job descriptions with the approval of the two teams, the district's team and with CSCA. And I believe Ms. Adams is going to check with a CSCA field representative to make sure that is okay with them. And we also have put it in is it in the HR section, Ms. Manabusen? It's on the HR section. So we want to make sure that we got that done today so that it's immediately accessible.
So that we can't negotiate in public, but I think that personally, I would urge the final job descriptions to have that. I'm pretty sure other members would agree. Okay.
Board Member Black, were you the one that noticed that? Thank you very much.
See, eagle eyes. No, that was a really good catch, and I really appreciated it. Okay, so
this is a public hearing. We have to open it.
So the state says we have to have public hearings and all this
That is
stuff.
correct.
So we are opening a public hearing. And any comments, questions? Close the public hearing. We need a motion.
I move we approve the agreement between California School Employees Association and Albany Unified School District for the job descriptions that are listed in the board packet.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work again, Cynthia, and Susan, and everyone. Oh, come on up.
This really was a process. I don't think any of us knew exactly what a mess we were looking at when we started. Things had not been looked at in a long time, and it was a year and a half really of looking things over. And by the end, I think all of our brains had pretty well turned to guacamole or something. But I'm pleased. I think that we have come up with something that will serve us for years into the future. And I think we've changed a few people's positions to a more appropriate level, which needed to be done. And I really deeply appreciate Cynthia's hard work on this. We spent a lot of time together in a little windowless room. Many of the directors and principals, vice principals, et cetera, came in at certain parts of the process. Kathy Rollins, our CSEA rep, came in. We spoke with our members. So I think it was a pretty inclusive process, and I hope that it will serve the district for years to come, and I hope I'll be long gone before it ever comes up again.
Excellent. Yeah, it did seem to make a lot of sense to me when I read them over. The job descriptions, even titles, the titles, some of them just, what? And they've been there forever. So it's a lot of hard work. Brings us to item H, approved resolution 2014-15-19, support to apply for state funding. And when we pass this, we all have to sign this document. So
Now? We sign it now?
As soon
as we vote on it.
You vote. So I'm going to turn this over to Alan Gard.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. And so I just want to clarify that this is a revised resolution that's being passed around. The only revision that was made was just to clarify what state funding we're actually applying for instead of providing a generic list that was in the original resolution. And this is just a requirement from the state to reflect that the board does indeed want to receive some state funding for the two projects.
which are Marin and Ocean View.
Correct.
Charlie.
I wanted to endorse the effort to seek funding. I think it's important that we explore all the funding sources we can find. I thought it would be worthwhile just to mention that I think there is one or two other board meetings that didn't appear in your background summary that are pertinent to this particular resolution. And in particular, the reason why this resolution has financial hardship funding for Marin but not Ocean View can be referenced from the board meeting of September 23rd, 2014. I went back through the minutes, and the corrected minutes for September 23rd, 2014. Item 9B, provide clarification of the Ocean View Elementary School construction project. Quote, the board directed staff to pursue a locally funded project which would allow for more sustainable and energy efficient methods of construction, end quote. And this would not be something that could be done as easily seeking state financial hardship funding for Ocean View. So in fact, that is the board direction that is the basis for the difference that you see here between the funding sources for Marin and for Ocean View, and I thought it was important to mention that.
Correct.
Thank you. Thanks,
Mm-hmm.
Charlie.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? And, seeing none, we need a motion.
I move we approve. Somebody's got
If nobody makes a motion, it's
I move we
tabled.
approve Resolution 2014-15-19.
Do we have a second? If it
You
doesn't
know,
get
I am going to second that. You know, I'm going to make one more observation, I think.
Okay.
And that is that this is a difficult process to think about new construction and how we do it. And it seems confusing because there doesn't seem to be a really good, logical, step-by-step order. When we put the pool building bond measure out in 2008, we did it a little differently than what we're doing now. $100 In hindsight, I thought that we did the pool bond measure a little bit backwards. We went to the community with the bond measure before we had drawings or design plans of any kind. We had conceptual plans, but we didn't have schematic design. And it was somewhat difficult, I think, because it was hard to say what we were proposing to do. We could outline it in general terms on the bond measure. We were going to build, we were going to replace the pool. We were going to build 2 pools. So that got outlined, but we didn't actually have the kind of schematic design that we have agreed to do for Ocean View, and then Marin is beyond that at this point. I think what's confusing is that there doesn't seem to be a good logical sequence to any of these. They all have to get done at the same time. And so it's confusing to have, we've previously approved contracts with HY Architects to get us to the next phase at Ocean View, the schematic design phase. But we haven't decided we're actually going to do that. So there's just a little bit of fuzziness about the whole process, and I think it's just the way it's going to be. There doesn't seem to be a really neat first step in all of this.
Seems that the logic or lack of logic is directed at us by the state, because in order to do things that you don't even know you're going to do or not do, you have to put in paperwork saying that you're interested.
I think Charlie's point is well made, though, particularly if we decide to go out for a bond. I don't think fuzziness is the, sort of the message that we want to give off. So I think your point is well made.
Oh, totally well made.
I should somewhat clarify, though, that it is mainly because of the state, because we did receive some state matching money, and if we did not move forward with some of the facility projects that we're pursuing over this summer, then if we do receive financial hardship funding, the state would just say, well, they're just going to take the money and say, use it on Marin, even though the $3 million is nowhere near what's needed to complete the project. And so we did have to do kind of some shuffling around on what takes place. And one of the good things, though, is that we're at this step now where things have been committed and we have projects in place for the summer, that we're able to provide an update based on the architectural design meetings for Ocean View and San Gabriel. We'd be able to provide that in the next fiscal year at board meetings to get some direction from the board on is this kind of where we want to go, and that will help with just the clarity on next steps.
And unfortunately, all of that is going to depend on how much funding is available, and so it's an appropriate step for us to find out what funding is available from the state. So I'm happy that you're doing that. On this particular request to the state, I'm not sure what the timeline is in terms of when we find out whether these monies would be granted or not. But regardless of the answer to that, is there a sunset, a deadline? By when do we have to use them? Should we be notified that we've received them?
Good questions. So for seismic mitigation funding for Marin and Ocean View, we're expected to receive information in the fall whether the state's accepted our application and if we should receive funding for it. There's no real timeline for the seismic mitigation funding from the state. As far as if we receive it, we have to spend it at a certain time. That limited time frame comes in relation to the financial hardship funding, where if we do receive that funding, then we would need to be under contract within 90 days of receiving the funding. And so we're at a point with Marin where if we are notified that we receive financial hardship funding from the state, then we're able to do the entire bid process and meet that timeline. But that is the only funding from the state that has a specific timeline on how to use the funding.
Thank you. That's an important clarification.
Ross,
Yes.
you had a question?
I was going to ask on the timeline. It sounds like fall, not particularly precise, is when the state would tell us. And if we're going to factor that into say, going out for bonds, we wait till fall to know numbers, though we could certainly start ASAP saying there is a need for facilities. I guess a follow-up question then is, in a request made to the state, is the answer binary? Do they say, yes, we'll give you everything you've asked for, or no, we'll give you nothing? Or is it possible they come back and say, here is an award of X if you can use it?
There is a somewhat unofficial negotiation process that takes place as far as if we receive the funding or not. But you're right, we wouldn't know until late fall or winter if we receive seismic mitigation, and we wouldn't know until almost this time next year if we're going to receive financial hardship funding.
And what we find out could be, you asked for X, we'll give you half X.
Correct.
And then you get to argue back and forth.
So I'm just repeating what you've said, just to make sure I've heard it right. It sounds to me like we are actually setting ourselves up for some deadlines with respect to Marin, but not for Ocean View.
Correct.
And then perhaps you can clarify for me, we have submitted plans for Marin, and
Correct.
I believe that presumes a stick-built facility.
Yes.
Are we locked into that?
We are not locked in until we actually build the building, technically speaking. It would just, revising plans and would just need to be resubmitted to Division of State Architect, and there would just be additional fees related to it, but we're not locked in until the building's built.
But some of the prefabricated designs don't actually require the same kind of review by DSA, if I understand, because they're essentially pre-approved. Is that?
No, there's every school that would be rebuilt would require the Division of State Architect to review all the plans, and so that is a process that takes between 4 to 6 months in order to complete. Prefabricated buildings, there's still an extensive review process that's still 4 to 6 months. There's the only pre-approval is really just the how the building is built, but there really is no pre-approved building, I should say. Like they talk about it because they talk about different like templates that prefabricated contractors have. But it's really, they all get adapted based on the needs of the school site and the design for the school site. So it never is, unless you pick that specific template and unless the needs of the school site fit that template, there really is no pre-approved plan.
Okay. So the plans, the templates are pre-approved, but your building is going to be different than the template.
All schools are, yes.
Okay. Got it.
Mm-hmm. It's just a marketing tool that prefabricated vendors use, but
good.
Yes.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a
motion, and Charlie said he would second.
I think I did.
Oh, there was a motion.
If I didn't already second it, I will be happy to second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Signatures I'm now giving to the superintendent.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to board and superintendent comments. We're 5 minutes early.
I just want to let the board know some upcoming events. On Wednesday, Albany Middle School has their 5th grade parent night. I will be attending that. And on Friday, it's at 5 o'clock. No, I have it at 7 o'clock. And on Friday, I will be attending with Dr. Brown and some of his staff members for the Gold Ribbon Award ceremony for Albany High. It'll be in San Francisco. Last week, I attended all 3 of the elementary open houses, and it was great. I got the chance to go through quite a few classrooms. I think I ate my way through the 3 open houses. There was a barbecue and Mexican food at Ocean View, and more Mexican food at Cornell, and then dessert at Marin. But what was really fun is that at Ocean View, the students created artwork, and we have parent volunteers and teachers who've been working together for years to, parents can buy their child's artwork and they get framed. But every now and then, an extra piece of artwork shows up, and there's nobody to claim it. So this is my first of what is going to be my annual collection of student artwork, and Principal Terry Georgeson brought me this, and parents a donation of $32, and so I have my very, very first artwork that I can put in outside of my office from an Ocean View student.
That's beautiful.
And this one's from Josura Jimenez. She's a 3rd grader, and her art teacher is Mary Ernst, and this is for room 11. So thanking Josura for this beautiful, beautiful piece of artwork.
That's very impressive.
Wow. Board comments? None. Do you have anything else? Nope. We are officially adjourned.